What if the fastest fighter in America's frontline arsenal isn't the sleek stealth jet everyone talks about? Imagine a combat mission where every second decides whether a pilot reaches the battlefield first or arrives too late. Most people assume the newest aircraft must also be the quickest, but that assumption falls apart the moment one aircraft enters the conversation. The F-15EX Eagle II. Built upon a design whose roots stretch back more than half a century, this fighter is proving that age alone says nothing about capability. In an era obsessed with stealth and futuristic technology, one legendary airframe is quietly rewriting the rules of modern air combat. For decades, the United States Air Force pursued a vision of air dominance centered on invisibility. The arrival of the F-22 Raptor and later the F-35 Lightning II represented a dramatic shift in military thinking, where avoiding detection became just as important, if not more important, than raw speed or brute force. Engineers spent years shaping aircraft surfaces, hiding weapons inside fuselages, and reducing radar signatures until these jets became some of the hardest aircraft on Earth to detect. To many observers, this seemed like the final evolution of fighter aviation, leaving older designs destined for museums. Yet behind closed doors, military planners were beginning to ask an uncomfortable question. What happens when stealth alone cannot solve every battlefield problem? Future conflicts were becoming more complex, stretching across enormous distances while introducing advanced missile systems, electronic warfare, and rapidly changing threats. Suddenly, commanders needed an aircraft capable of carrying huge weapon loads, arriving quickly, remaining in the fight longer, and adapting to missions that stealth fighters could not perform efficiently. That search would eventually bring attention back to one of aviation's greatest success stories. Public perception often paints military technology as a straight line of progress, where every new generation completely replaces the previous one. By that logic, the F-22 and F-35 should outperform every aircraft that came before them in every measurable category. They certainly represent extraordinary engineering achievements, combining advanced sensors, networked warfare capabilities, and radar-evading designs unlike anything that existed decades earlier. But engineering has always been about compromise, and every breakthrough carries its own price. Stealth, despite its remarkable advantages, changes how an aircraft is designed from the very beginning. Internal weapon bays limit payload options. Special shaping influences aerodynamic performance. Protective coatings require careful maintenance. None of these characteristics are design flaws, they are deliberate decisions made to maximize survivability. But while stealth aircraft became increasingly difficult to detect, they quietly surrendered some of the outright speed that earlier generations pursued without hesitation. Meanwhile, another philosophy never disappeared. Instead of asking how invisible a fighter could become, Boeing asked what would happen if one of history's greatest air superiority platforms received every technological advancement developed over the last 50 years. Rather than replacing a proven design, the company chose to evolve it. That decision created something few people expected: a fighter that combines modern electronics with performance characteristics rooted in an era when speed remained king. To understand why the F-15EX exists, the story must begin long before its first flight. In the early 1970s, the original F-15 Eagle emerged during one of the most competitive periods in military aviation. The Cold War demanded an aircraft capable of defeating enemy fighters under almost any condition. McDonnell Douglas focused relentlessly on thrust, maneuverability, climb performance, and structural strength. Every design choice served a single objective: owning the skies before an opponent could react. That philosophy produced remarkable results. Across decades of operations and multiple conflicts, the F-15 established one of the most extraordinary combat records in aviation history. More than 100 confirmed air-to-air victories accumulated without a single loss in aerial combat. Such consistency was never the product of luck alone. It reflected an airframe engineered with enormous performance margins, giving pilots confidence while leaving future engineers something even more valuable: room to grow. Years later, Boeing inherited that legacy and recognized an opportunity hidden inside the Eagle's original structure. Instead of designing an entirely new aircraft from scratch, engineers realized the existing airframe possessed enough strength to support dramatically improved engines, next-generation avionics, advanced sensors, and heavier weapon loads. Rather than becoming obsolete, the Eagle had quietly become the perfect foundation for modernization. The result became the F-15EX Eagle II. At first glance, its silhouette remains familiar, instantly recognizable to anyone who has watched fighter aircraft over the last several decades. Underneath that familiar appearance, however, lies an aircraft transformed by modern technology. Powerful General Electric F-110 G229 engines generate nearly 60,000 pounds of combined thrust, allowing the Eagle II to reach approximately Mach 2.5. That figure exceeds the maximum speed of the F-22 Raptor and leaves the F-35 Lightning II considerably behind. Numbers alone rarely tell the full story, but they reveal something important about design philosophy. The F-35 emphasizes survivability through stealth. The F-22 balances stealth with exceptional maneuverability and sustained supersonic flight. The F-15EX follows an entirely different path. It sacrifices low observability in exchange for overwhelming kinetic performance, carrying tremendous momentum into every mission while delivering speed that few operational fighters can equal. Speed, however, is only meaningful if it serves a strategic purpose. Reaching a battlefield sooner can intercept hostile aircraft before they threaten friendly forces. It allows commanders to reinforce vulnerable sectors rapidly across enormous operational areas. It shortens response times when unexpected situations develop. In warfare, arriving minutes earlier can reshape an entire engagement long before missiles are ever launched. The Eagle II strengthens that advantage by carrying an astonishing amount of firepower. Unlike stealth aircraft that must preserve their radar signature by storing weapons internally, the F-15EX mounts a wide array of external stores. Fully configured, it can carry as many as 22 air-to-air missiles, providing endurance in prolonged engagements that few fighters can match. Instead of returning to base after exhausting a limited internal loadout, the Eagle II remains an active participant deep into the battle. Modern warfare, though, depends on far more than engines and missiles. Hidden behind the cockpit is one of the aircraft's greatest strengths: computing power. The Advanced Display Core Processor 2 continuously integrates radar information, electronic warfare data, targeting systems, navigation inputs, and weapon management into a unified operational picture. Rather than forcing pilots to mentally assemble fragmented information, the aircraft delivers a coherent understanding of the battlespace in real time. Inside the cockpit, wide-area displays replace older instrument layouts, allowing pilots to process information faster even while enduring intense maneuvering. Every second saved in decision-making becomes another advantage during combat, where confusion often proves deadlier than enemy missiles. The aircraft effectively acts as an intelligent partner, filtering enormous amounts of data into actionable awareness. Survivability extends beyond simply avoiding radar. The Eagle Passive Active Warning Survivability System continuously monitors the electromagnetic environment, searching for hostile radar emissions, missile launches, and electronic attacks. When threats appear, the system helps coordinate defensive responses, increasing the pilot's chances of surviving even without relying primarily on stealth. Rather than disappearing from enemy sensors, the F-15EX prepares to detect danger quickly and respond intelligently. As global tensions continue evolving, the United States Air Force increasingly views future conflicts as team efforts rather than competitions between individual aircraft. Instead of asking which fighter is superior, planners now examine how different platforms complement one another. That shift explains why investment in the F-15EX has accelerated despite the continued importance of both the F-22 and F-35. Operational testing at Eglin Air Force Base has demonstrated how the Eagle II fits into modern force structures. while deliveries to the Portland Air National Guard signal growing confidence in the aircraft's long-term role. At the same time, discussions have expanded beyond traditional fighter missions. Military planners have explored adapting the F-15EX into an electronic attack platform capable of disrupting hostile radar networks and integrated air defense systems. Such versatility dramatically expands its value beyond conventional air superiority. The aircraft also offers something increasingly important for tomorrow's battlefield: capacity. As hypersonic weapons continue advancing, military planners require platforms capable of carrying larger and heavier missiles than previous generations demanded. The Eagle II's structural strength and substantial payload capacity position it as one of the few fighters ready to support those future capabilities without requiring an entirely new design. Gradually, a larger strategic picture begins to emerge. Stealth fighters penetrate contested airspace. Electronic warfare platforms suppress enemy defenses. Heavy missile carriers sustain long-range engagements. High-speed aircraft rapidly reinforce vulnerable sectors. Rather than existing separately, these capabilities become interconnected pieces of a single operational system. The real story, then, is not that the F-15EX defeated the F-22 or outclassed the F-35. That interpretation misses the entire point. The Eagle II exists because the United States Air Force recognized that modern warfare cannot depend on one revolutionary aircraft solving every challenge. Every fighter embodies different priorities, and victory increasingly depends on combining those strengths instead of replacing them. Ironically, the oldest design among America's frontline fighters may be the one that best illustrates the future of military aviation. It proves that innovation does not always require abandoning proven engineering. Sometimes the smartest path forward begins by asking how yesterday's masterpiece can be transformed using today's technology. The Eagle's remarkable speed is not evidence that stealth failed. It is evidence that specialization remains essential. What initially appears to be a contest between generations becomes something much larger. The F-22 opens the door. The F-35 expands battlefield awareness. The F-15EX delivers overwhelming firepower, exceptional speed, and unmatched payload exactly where those stealth aircraft need reinforcement. Together, they form an integrated combat ecosystem far more capable than any single platform operating alone. In the end, the F-15EX Eagle II tells a story far bigger than top speed. It reminds us that military superiority has never belonged exclusively to the newest machine or the most futuristic concept. Instead, it belongs to nations willing to adapt, rethink assumptions, and combine experience with innovation. A design first conceived during the Cold War now flies alongside fifth-generation stealth fighters, not as a relic surviving on nostalgia, but as a critical pillar of America's evolving air power. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden beneath the Eagle II's familiar silhouette. Technology moves forward, strategies change, and threats continue evolving, yet truly exceptional engineering refuses to become obsolete. While the world watches the invisible fighters slipping silently through contested skies, another aircraft races above the clouds at Mach 2.5, carrying enough firepower to reshape the battle that follows. Sometimes the future of warfare does not arrive by replacing the past. It arrives by proving that the past was built strong enough to carry the future.